Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay Today, sponsored by GayRealEstate.com. And we are in San Francisco today, and we're with somebody that our paths cross constantly, but we have not connected in the real world yet. We're with Ben Stokes. How are you?
Hi, how you going? Thanks so much for having me. It's great
I'm
to
so
see
glad
you.
to be here with you. Like, yeah, our paths have been crossing because we're running around in these conferences and different things, but we will connect soon.
We will. I am 100% sure that our paths are meant to cross in person at some point very soon.
I feel
Absolutely.
it. And you're in San Francisco right now, correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your founding partner, Chasing Rainbows, it's LGBTQ led and focused VC firm. Seems like San Francisco is still probably one of the best places to be located for in that world. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, so Chasing Rainbows is an early stage venture fund which invests in LGBTQ plus founded companies as a way of creating access to capital. So I don't know if you know this, but less than 0.5% of all venture funding has ever gone to someone who identifies as part of the LGBTQ plus community. On top of that, what we saw is that founders are going back into the closet because they feel like it's going to be a bad mark against their name. And so looking at that side of things, I kind of like started the fund kind of out of that effort to almost think about, for the very first round of fundraising for most founders, it's quite literally called friends and family. And if you don't have any, it's like, where are you supposed to go to get that access to capital? And so thinking about all of that and thinking, well, how are we supposed to create opportunities for people within the LGBTQ plus community if there's not access to capital from a venture capital space? And so I created Chasing Rainbows essentially to be that early stage venture fund to sort of help with a lot of those capital requirements and capital restraints.
Yeah. How, it's kind of a big world out there. How did you even get started? That have you always been in the world of finance?
No, so I actually was a startup founder myself previously, and so I had a startup called Social Table, which was a social dining platform. And so the idea was that you could book and pay for a single seat at a group table at a restaurant as a way of meeting people. So I think dining with strangers and hopefully leaving with friends at the end. Obviously, no SWOT analysis could ever prepare one for every single restaurant to shut down overnight. But what we ended up doing was pivoting, and we sent wine, beer, spirits, and tea directly to people's houses, had them jump on a Zoom call, and then broke them out to an algorithm based on a broke them out to breakout rooms, sorry, based on an algorithm that I created with the help of Simon Galinsky, who co-founded Match.com. And so we then added sommelier as well. And so we had this experience where people could come and network during the pandemic. Obviously, we decided to really think about how could we actually turn this into a B2B model. And after hearing more and more about how HR directors were really struggling to keep company culture alive during the pandemic, we essentially brought back Friday afternoon drinks, which seemed to work quite well.
Yeah.
Whilst I was doing that, I was always angel investing as well. And I started to see this similar track, as I mentioned before, for all the LGBTQ plus founders I was investing in. And that was sadly for a lot of them when they come out, they'd lost their friends and family due to bigotry. And as I said, the first round of fundraising is quite literally called friends and family, and you don't have any. It's kind of like where are you supposed to go to get that access to capital? And so it kind of sort of grew out of that. And so from there, we started writing pretty small checks, so kind of like 10 to 50K. I think the biggest check we wrote was 75K in the rolling fund, and then from that, we now flipped up to this new traditional fund, which we did our first close about 2 months ago. And for that one, we're now writing check sizes of 50 to 250K.
Nice. No, it's
Yeah.
interesting. When I first connected with you, and my first thought, which I was actually embarrassed because I realized that you were way ahead of me on that, which is that I've gotten to know a lot of the folks that start out over all those years, but it seems very aligned with everything you're doing. And in fact, in your recent newsletter, I know some of the great job numbers and so forth that Start Out publishes you guys were putting out there. So Start Out is a big part of your world as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, as an entrepreneur, I actually found Startout. And the reason why I found them was because I kind of constantly was being rejected from accelerators because I didn't meet the diversity criteria they were looking for, because most of them didn't mention LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of out of frustration, was like, what am I? I'm a gay guy. Okay, so I just Googled gay accelerator. And that's how I found Startup. And so I applied to their growth lab and then got in pretty much straight away. And so that was kind of like the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And so I've sat on the board there for the last 4 years, I think, programming board, and I'm about to step up to the national board as well.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, no, like I said, I've known them for many, many years, and they've really evolved and been especially in the world of entrepreneurs and fundraising and so forth. They're almost like one of the only organizations that touches on those topics.
Yeah, so there's like 25,000 people within the Startup Network across the globe, which is kind of amazing actually when you start thinking about how many entrepreneurs there are.
Yeah.
I don't think that people realize, particularly other investors, don't realize just how many LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs there are out there. And so I think that that for me has been a really big eye opener. Yeah.
Yeah. I love I was just checking out some of your LinkedIn feed and so forth, but the things you've been involved with, and just recently, what was it? Is Venture Capital Include Summit that was just here in DC?
Yeah. Yeah. So as part of my journey into VC, obviously not coming from VC, I kind of went on this big education journey, I guess you could say. And so I started with my with Venture Capital University, which is part of UC Berkeley, and then from there I was a Material Change Fellow. From there, I've done Recast Capital and Plexo Capitals as well. And then finally, we have done Venture Capital or VC Include. And so I just graduated that about 6 weeks ago, I think it was now. Yeah, which is really amazing. It was their focus is for Black and brown venture capitalists actually being able to deploy capital, which is great.
That must be why you've been listed as Venture Capital Journal's 40 under 40, one of their rising stars.
Yes, that was quite a big honor. I would definitely say that. It was definitely not something I was expecting.
Yeah.
But it kind of really shows just how, when you do something that I don't think is that different, which is just investing in LGBTQ plus individuals, that the rest of the industry really starts to take notice. And so I think that for me, being differentiated in a really highly competitive space, I think has actually been our biggest strength. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're actually part of a friend of mine that's also been in our world for many, many years, Justin, over with who's got Equality MD, and you guys are a part
Yeah.
of that organization.
Yeah, so we actually wrote Justin his first institutional check. It was about 18 months ago now, maybe almost 2 years ago, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really been really awesome to sort of see how far he's come, since that first check. I think one of the biggest things that I love about being an investor is just to be able to go on the journey with the founders that we invest in. I feel so blessed to be part of their story just as much as I feel like, they are part of mine as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love seeing the pictures when you were all the way in Saskatchewan, the queer entrepreneurs and professionals. But it seems like, I guess, the opportunities and the folks that are out there trying to make things happen are everywhere.
Yeah, I think one of the best things to think about is the fact that the LGBTQ plus, community doesn't discriminate. There's people all over the globe, and so what that for me has sort of meant is that I get to go and speak at different conferences and things like that about what we're doing in the space, and to really shine light on LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs because. For me, I don't know if you saw the recent startup findings in the Fierce Health report, but it says that LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs create 36% more jobs, 114% more patents, and have 44% more exits. And so it's almost like a no-brainer for me to be able to invest in a space that I absolutely am very passionate about, obviously being part of the community myself, but then with not only making sure that more capital is deployed in that space, but then actually been thinking about the opportunity for returns and particularly outsized returns, I think, compared to the rest of the industry, I think is really exciting.
Yeah. Well, as for, it's almost 2024. Anything exciting on the horizon that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, so we have one of our companies is actually converting, I believe, next week, which is Tomtex, which has created a bio-based leather alternative out of mushrooms and shellfish shell waste. The thing I'm most excited about what they're doing is they started in small leather luxury goods like handbags and wallets and things like that, and they're still doing those as well. I think they've got their newest color scheme is for Balenciaga. I believe I'm saying it right now. I always struggle with that one. I'm not fancy enough for that word. What they've started to do is actually start doing manufacturing for car seat leathers with Porsche, BMW, Audi, and Jaguar. And I think for me that's the most exciting because we're going to start seeing a lot more of a push towards sustainable materials, and the fact that Tomtex is able to supply that is really exciting.
Yeah, and lastly, like before I let you go, I was going to say, I even read in your newsletter though that you have some connection with one of the companies you'd invested in, and then the tie-in with Autostraddle, the
Yes.
lesbian. What was that
Yep.
about?
Yeah, so one of the companies that we invested in is For Them,
Okay.
which is run by an individual named Kylo, and they are a they're part of the trans community themselves, and what they've or non-binary, and so what they've done is they've created a chest binder for women who, particularly, or ABFAB in particular, is the terminology, and so those who are assigned female at birth to be able to, if they do decide to want to go more of an androgynous look, that they're able to bind their chest in a safe way. But what they have started doing is actually expanding their market, and so they purchased Autostraddle recently. But
Yeah.
I'm most excited about them for them actually is the fact that they have a partnership with Nike coming out, which is very exciting for particularly for women's sport. And so I think that what we're going to start seeing is the fact that this binder, although initially created for people within the trans community, actually has a really wide market that it can actually serve, which is pretty exciting.
That's interesting. And like I said, I noticed that because that, Autostraddle and everything in LGBT media just, I feel a little more connected to. It's part of my world. So
Yeah, no,
that
it's
was nice
pretty
to see.
exciting. And then one more that I'm super excited about actually, which is an AI assistant for kids called Hello Wonder, which I'm really excited about. That one in particular, I can see a lot of use coming forward, particularly as parents try and work out ways to sort of allow their children to surf the internet safely and things like that. What Wonder allows is to go on a journey together whilst being put under the guardrails of the parents. So I really enjoy that opportunity to create something that we don't usually think of for our own selves, which I think is quite cool as well. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is the fact that Wonder actually says if it's tired, that the kids can go out and play. So essentially, it says Wonder's tired right now. You should go out and outside and play now. And so it kind of is stopping the parents having to do that conversation piece with the kid. Instead, the tool itself does it, which I'm pretty excited about.
Nice. Well, this is
Yeah.
all fantastic. And like I said at the beginning, I'm very much, I always love your passion and your energy for this stuff. And so I'm looking forward to hanging out with you in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, like I said, I feel like it's such a privilege to be able to showcase the incredible talent within our community. And I think venture capital for me is the way to do that. And so, yeah, we're actively fundraising the rest of the fund right now. So if anyone is interested in coming along and sort of experiencing what it's like to be a limited partner for a fund like ours, which invests purely in the LGBTQ plus community, please feel free to reach out. I would love to be able to chat.
Fantastic. Well, again, thanks for being here, sharing a bit of your story with our audience. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Matt. It was great to see you. See ya.
So good.